watch it later, and you guys can definitely watch it later. So I'm recording it now, and so give me one quick second, and I'll tell you what we all are going to do. I hope you guys are doing okay. Can you guys hear me all right? I just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. If you can you give me a thumbs up? Awesome,
Yes,
good.
sir. I can hear you.
Okay, perfect, great, great, great. I got one of these little window air conditioned units here, so it's running, and I just don't know if it's making too much noise. Let's see. All right. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Happy to see that we got so many people here. Okay, so guys, what I wanted to do, start doing on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays we'll be meeting each other, and I'll log in at 5:30. And so one of the things I'm going to do right now, real quick, just so you, and I'll even share my screen so you guys can see what it is I'm doing. So let me do this and let me do this. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. And yesterday I sent you guys an email saying, look, sections from 2.1 to 2.6 are available and they're due on Tuesday, the 21st. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change those deadlines from the 21st. See if I can get this to work. I'm going to push them back 2 days, y'all. I'm going to push them back to the 23rd. And the reason why I want to do that is since we're meeting on Wednesdays, I want you guys to be able to ask me questions from the work, right? And if it's due on Tuesday, it's kind of hard for you guys to ask me a question on Wednesday for something that was done the day before. So let me double check to make sure. Yes, these are all due now on the 23rd. And what I was going to do, and I'll do it right now actually, is everything that we had from the first week. I know it was due last night. And I see a lot of you guys actually got everything done, or mostly everything done, but I know there might be a few of you who didn't. And so what I was going to do was extend those deadlines from everything that was due last night on the 7th. I'm going to make that due by Sunday night. In this way, if you guys have any questions from what we've been doing for weeks 1 and 2, then you have an opportunity to ask me because those assignments are still available. So you see now, and actually I'll do it from your perspective. So if you were to click on assignments in my lab, you would see that 7.7 all the way down to the quiz is really not due until Sunday night. And then the stuff from chapter 2 isn't due until that Thursday, which is the 23rd. But this way, it gives you guys an opportunity to say, hey, listen, sir, I know we meet on Wednesdays, so I have questions on this assignments, this assignments, this assignments, and I know they're not due until tomorrow night or whatever it happens to be, right? But at least we have that flexibility. So I hope that makes sense. Um, so I wanted to do that, and then let's see. Um, Let me stop sharing this real quick, and I got my camera back on, so I think you all can see me. And what I wanted to ask you guys is, do you all have any questions that you want to ask me about anything at all? Anything from chapter 1? Some of you may have already gotten started on chapter 2. I don't know yet. I know I just opened up that stuff yesterday. I was looking for something, but I don't know where I put it. It's okay. It's not important. So I really wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask me anything, right? So sir, I got stuck on this problem from chapter 1, or I got stuck on this problem, or I'm having trouble finding the notes, or I'm having trouble doing, whatever it is. Anybody want to ask anything? Don't be shy. There's no judgment zone here, guys. I'm here to help you all make sure that you guys get through this well. Just enjoying a little bit of iced tea. Anything you can put it in the chat too, guys, so that you feel better saying, sir, can you go over 7 from 1.6. You can do something like that, and I'll do it. But don't be shy. Questions, anybody?
I did want to ask just a question. I mean, I'm kind of grabbing it. I grabbed already. I'm already caught up a little bit on everything, so I'm actually starting on the chapter 2.
Excellent.
So, I mean, I haven't done it for 20 years, so obviously, you know, it's not easy. But
Yes, I understand, David. I agree with you 100%. Guys, so one thing I want to mention is, here it is. This is what I was looking for. So before the pandemic hit, I used to teach a lot of classes in the evening. And when I taught in the evening, I had a lot of what the college refers to as non-traditional students. So students, David, such as yourself, that's been out of school for a while and then you're coming back. And I always have so much respect for you guys for doing this because I know it can't be easy. But the one thing is, I know you guys are determined. So, yeah, I know today's Wednesday, and I just opened up the material yesterday, so you may still be looking at it just kind of just now or yesterday or whatever, or even today. That's fine. So when you do have questions, guys, so multiple things. You can send me a message privately through Pronto. And guys, I keep my Pronto. I don't have it on my phone just because I do keep my phone in my bedroom. So when I'm trying to sleep at night, if it's going off, it does disturb me. But I keep my Pronto on my iPad, and I don't keep this in my bedroom. So one thing is, and I know some of you guys have already messaged me like privately saying, "Sir, can you help me with this problem? Sir, can you help me with that problem?" I actually have an in-person college algebra class in Wesco, and I had it last night, and I was telling them that one of my other online courses, it's a stats course, what they've been doing is, and it's fine, you can message me privately, but some students have been messaging in like the group, in the class message board through Pronto, and they'll say, "Hey, has anybody done this problem? Has anybody done that problem?" And before I get a chance to answer, there's already like 7 or 8 responses. So if you don't feel comfortable putting it like in the group or in the class message thing, that's fine. You can message me independently, like directly. But if you do feel comfortable putting it in the chat thing and you're wondering, has anybody done this problem or that problem, definitely put it in there. Simply because if somebody already knows how to do it, they might tell you, "Hey, this is what I did. This is how I did my problem," and it's going to kind of expedite the help that you guys are going to get. So, but most importantly, make sure you guys reach out, and I'm happy to help you guys. And I'm hoping that when I send the message like, "Hey, one of our classmates asked a question, and here's a video," I hope you're finding those like individual videos of individual problems helpful, because it should be something that's, if not identical, almost identical to your homework problems. So I don't know if I answered what you were trying to tell me, David. I might have just kind of rambled on, but I
well,
hope it's making sense.
yeah, no. Actually, all of that is greatly appreciated because I'm able to go to some of that and then kind of see. But the concepts are a little bit different because, especially that I've seen. Well, I mean, I have 2 questions, but on this one, I've just been kind of confused, and I'm trying to find the concept of when, of course, you're using less than equals to or greater than equals to, and then using that u, which is, of course,
Okay.
I found out it was union. But then how do you know
Yes.
when to use the brackets and things like that as well?
Excellent question. So guys, what we're going to do right now, and this is actually what I did last night in my, so I have a class that's called a hybrid course. So what it does is that class meets on a once a week basis. And so I only see them one day out of the week. And so what I want to do is I'm going to pull up a problem from y'all's homework, because I do want to make sure that you guys are feeling okay about this stuff. And I'm actually going to do 2 problems out of 1.7. And like I said, y'all, I did reopen those. I did reopen all of those sections, so you are available to go back in there and look at it and see like, hey, what do I need to do here, or how do I do this problem or that problem? Okay. And so what I'm going to do here, y'all, is I'm going to pull up a problem out of 1.7, And I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at. So let me do this. Let me stop sharing that and let me share this. And let's see. Okay, so guys, I think y'all can see this. And this here, let me just tell you which one it is. This here happens to be problem number 11 out of 1.7. Okay, and so what I want to do is I want to work through this problem together. And I want to make sure that we're okay. All right, so let me get my pen going. There we go. All right, so the problem says solve the inequality and write the solution set in interval notation. Okay, so step number one, y'all, what I want to do is I want to rewrite this problem so that I have 0 on the left side. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I want to put 0 on the left side. So when I move that 64 this way, what's going to happen is that 64 is going to change signs. It's going to come from a positive to a negative because we're crossing the equal or the inequality sign. Now, the second thing I need to do is I need to solve the equation. And what I mean by solve the equation, I need to solve this problem right here, okay? And so the way I'm going to solve this one, a couple of ways I can do it, but one way is we can factor it, using what we call the difference of squares. So what the difference of squares says is that this piece has to be a square, and it is because it's a power 2, and this number has to be a square. It could be 64, it could be 49, it could be 81, it could be 25. It's got to be a perfect square. And when it is, all we're going to do is put an x here and an x here, and then we're going to ask ourselves, what times what gives me 64? And we know that's 8 and 8. And one of them is going to be minus and one of them is going to be plus. And this works, y'all, anytime that's a square and that number is a square and I have a minus in the middle. It has to be a minus in the middle, but don't worry, in your problems, it will be. Like when we moved the 64 over and it became negative, okay? So it will work that way for you guys. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to set each part equal to 0. So we're going to go like this. And we're going to go like this. And then again, when I move that 8 over, make that pen not so thick. When I move that 8 over, the sign is going to change, and that's going to become a positive 8. Better, there we go. And when I move this one over, that sign is going to change, and that's going to become a negative 8. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to draw a number line. Okay? And the two numbers that I want to put on that number line, y'all, are 8 and negative 8, okay? And so if I put them in the way that they would appear on the number line, the negative 8 would come first, and then the positive 8 would come second. And I want you to think about my number line for a minute. If I were to keep moving this way, here's 8, I'd hit 9, 10, 11, and if we keep going forever and ever and ever, eventually we approach the idea of infinity. And the same thing happens when I go this way. If here's negative 8 and I move 1 over, there's negative 9, negative 10, negative 11, so on and so forth. Eventually I approach the idea of negative infinity. And so what we're going to do now, we've broken up this number line, y'all, into 3 parts. That's part 1, part 2, part 3, okay? And what we're going to do, we're going to pick a number that happens to be in part 1. These are going to be my test numbers, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing this in a minute. I just want to kind of show you the process. So I need a number smaller than negative 8. Oh, I don't know. Let's pick, say, negative 10. Okay, that's going to be the number I'm going to try. And then I need a number between negative 8 and positive 8. Y'all, if I can ever use 0, I'm going to use 0. Okay, and then I'm going to pick a number bigger than 8. It doesn't matter what number we pick. We could pick 9. We could pick 37. I'm going to stick with 10. Okay. What I want to do now is I want to come back to the factored form. The factored form of this equation right here. And the reason I want to use the factored form, it's easier when I do my plug and chug. What I mean by that is I'm going to take this number negative 10, and everywhere I have an x, I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to write negative 10 minus 8 and negative 10 plus 8. Okay. Now, negative 10 minus 8 means if I owed you $10 and I borrowed another 8, Now I owe you 18. And this one means if I owed you $10 and I only had 8, I would owe you 2. Now remember what we're doing with these two numbers here. We're multiplying these two numbers. So my question to you, when you multiply these two numbers together, would your answer be positive or would your answer be negative? Anybody know? What do you think?
Positive.
Negative, positive. Very good. Okay, that's all we're going to do. Okay, we're going to do this 2 more times, y'all. We're going to do this with 0 and we're going to do this with 10. So look, we're going to come back here. We're going to take 0 and I'm going to plug it in to this piece right here. So I'm going to put 0 minus 8 and 0 plus 8. So 0 minus 8 is a negative 8 and 0 plus 8 is a positive 8. Again, just like we did before, when I multiply these two numbers together, would my answer be positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so guys, we got one more time to do this. We're going to plug in our number 10. So I'm going to come back over here. 10 minus 8, 10 plus 8. So 10 minus 8 is 2, and 10 plus 8 is 18, and you can see that all my numbers here are positive, so we know that our answer here is going to be positive, okay? Now, the reason why I wanted to know this part, when we put this problem right here, when my inequality has less than 0, and I'll even put it this way, when my inequality is pointing to the left, we're looking for when it's going to be negative. And if my inequality is going to the right, then we're looking for when it's going to be positive. Okay, so what I want to know here, if I look here back at my picture, look, it was positive, it was negative, it was positive. And we want to know, since this part has the less than part, we want to know where it's negative. Well, it's negative between these numbers right here. Okay, so it's negative right here. Now, anytime, and this is a question that David was asking, anytime we have that little line, we're going to fill these circles in. Okay, now guys, I know in your homework for a lot of the problems, like especially for this problem, it didn't actually ask me to do a graph. But the reason why I do the graph is when I know what my graph looks like, then I can write my answer in interval notation. Okay, so here's my picture. We wanted to know when it was negative, and the reason being was look at the way the arrow is pointing. The arrow is pointing to the left, and if it's pointing to the left, we want to know when it's negative. Guys, that is always going to work as long as I have 0 on that side. Okay, so that's why I have to put that 0 there. That's why I have to move that 64 over so that I would get 0. Now, the way we're going to write our answer, if those circles are filled in, we're going to start at negative 8 and we're going to go to positive 8. And we're going to use brackets because the circles are filled in and because we have that little line. So if we have that little line, then we have to use the brackets. And guys, what I want to show you now is, let me stop sharing this part here. And I'm going to share one other screen with you guys. You can see what I'm looking at. And here we go. Okay, so guys, this is the exact problem we're working on, right? So you can see it right here. And I'm going to enter in my answer exactly like I wrote it down. So I'm going to use my brackets, which on my keyboard, guys, is right next to my letter P, right? And then I'm going to put a negative 8, comma, positive 8, and then my other bracket, and I'm going to go, let's check our answer, and we got it. Okay. Now, before I go on, let's see. I want to show you all how I'm going to do this problem here, and I want you to notice something different about this problem. Number 1, the arrow is pointing in the different direction, and number 2, it does not have that little line. So the question is, well, how do I do this one? Okay, so let me copy this one, y'all, and let's see, go like this, and let me see if I can put it over here for us. Here we go. Excellent. And let me share my screen with you guys so y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay, So again, all I did here is just copy and paste the other problem, right? So just like we did before, y'all, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write x squared minus 6x minus 16 equals 0. Now notice, I didn't have to move anything over like we did in the previous problem because we already had 0 on the right side, okay? So now I'm going to factor this guy. So remember, the way I factor, if the number in front of the x squared is a 1, right? And it is in this case. We're going to multiply these numbers together. So 1 times a negative 16 is a negative 16. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pair of all the numbers that I know multiplied as 16. And then what I want to do, let's see, I think I heard something pop up in the chat, but I don't know. Let's see, yes, I got something here. Yes, so Liz, the endpoints are included, and that's why we are using the brackets. That's right. So for the negative 8 and the positive 8. And then, yes, and then I see your other answer about 8 and 2. We are going to use 8 and 2. So, guys, we're going to use 8 and 2. Now, this is the thing. Look what kind of 16 we want to get. We want to get a negative 16, and we want those numbers to add up to a negative 6. So if this number here is negative, whatever sign we have here, the bigger numbers will have that sign, and the smaller numbers will have the opposite sign. So notice, the middle number here is negative, so I made the bigger numbers here negative, and then I made these positive so that I get my negative 16. And then if you were to add these numbers together, think about what this means. Positive 2 means I have $2. Negative 8 means I owe you 8. So if I had $2 and I owed you 8 and you said pay me, I give you the $2, but I would still owe you 6, right? Okay, so now we're going to put it in the factored form. So when the number in front of the x squared is a 1, guys, we can just put x and x, and then we're going to copy and paste those two numbers, the positive 2 and the negative 8, okay? And let's see, let me erase some of this mess over here because we don't need it. This is probably from something else I did. So let me just clear this out for you guys. You don't see it. Here we go. Okay. So now we're going to set each part equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 8 equals 0. And then, just like we did before, when I move that 2 over, it's become a minus 2. When I move that 8 over, it's going to become a positive 8. Okay, now that we've done that part, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a number line. Okay, so here is my number line. Actually, you know what? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And the two numbers we're going to use are negative 2 and positive 8. So I'm going to put a minus 2 here and a plus 8 right here. And I'm just kind of doing this so you guys can see everything. Okay, so guys, like we said earlier, we took this number line and we broke it up into 3 pieces, 1, 2, and 3. So remember we said when we go all the way to the right, we go to infinity. When we go all the way to the left, we go to negative infinity. So I need a number that's smaller than negative 2. So if I keep going this way, oh, I don't know, maybe we could pick negative 3. Okay. And then I need another number between negative 2 and 8. Anything between negative 2 and 8, 0 is going to work. And I like to use 0 because it's kind of a nice number to plug in. And then I need one more number, something bigger than 8. Oh, I don't know, let's try 9. Okay, so y'all, just like we did before, I'm going to use the factored form. I'm going to use this part. Okay. So remember, I'm going to take this negative 3 and I'm going to plug it in everywhere I have an x. So I'm going to go negative 3 plus 2, negative 3 minus 8. So if I owe you $3 and I only have 2, I still owe you $1. If I owe you 3 and I borrow another 8 from you, I owe 11. My question to y'all, would this number be negative or positive when we multiply them? Anyone know?
Positive.
Positive, excellent. Boom, right there. Okay, guys, we're going to do this again, but now we're going to plug in 0. So we're going to go 0 plus 2 and 0 minus 8. Okay. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 minus 8 is negative 8. When we multiply those numbers, positive or negative?
Negative.
Excellent. Very good. We got to do this one last time, y'all, with the number 9. So let's go like this. 9 plus 2 and 9 minus 8. So this is 11, and this is 1, and we know that's going to be positive, right? Okay. So now I want to show you something. Do you remember when we were doing this part up here at the very top? When we said that if my arrow points to the left, it's negative, and my arrow points to the right, it's positive. And when we come back to this problem here and we look at this, we say, look, it's pointing to the right. We want to know, when is this guy going to be positive? So what we do is we come back to our number line and we say, look, this thing is positive right here. That means when I'm starting here all the way to the number 2, it's going to be positive. But then it becomes negative, and it doesn't become positive again until we get to 8, and we keep going all the way until we hit infinity. Now, since this problem, when we started off, since this problem right here, y'all, didn't have that little line, since the line is not there, I'm going to leave those circles open. Okay, I'm not going to fill those circles in. And so we're going to start writing our answer. So look where we start off at. We start off at negative infinity. And then we stopped right here at negative 2. Okay? And then we started up again at the number 8. And then we kept going all the way to infinity. Now, one thing, guys, since those circles are not filled in because they didn't have the little line, we always use parentheses around those numbers. Okay? And then with the infinities, whether I have whether that line is there or whether that line isn't, with the infinity, we always use parentheses as well. The little bracket means we're including that number. We could never really include infinity because it's not really a number, it's more of an idea, right? And infinite means it goes forever. So we could never say, well, we got forever, right? We kept going, but we could never reach there. And then since these parts kind of skip over this piece here in the middle, then we use that funny looking U to connect them. And so the reason, again, why I'm using these parentheses here is because my inequality sign did not have the line. Whereas in the problem that we did before, here we go. In the problem that we did before, this one did have the line, and we filled those circles in, and that's why we used those kind of square brackets, right? And since this one doesn't, we leave the circles open and we use the parentheses. So guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this part right here, and I'm going to enter it in on my lab so you guys can see exactly the way I'm going to enter this in, okay? So let me stop sharing this part for a second. You come back over here, and let's do this. Let's see, here we go. And yes, okay, you guys can see this. So remember, I'm going to put parentheses, right? And I go negative. My infinity is right here, down here at the bottom. And then we went to negative 2. And we closed our parentheses. And then here's that funny looking U. And then I'm going to go again from 8 all the way to infinity. And I'm going to close off my parentheses. And I'm going to check my answer. And we got it. So, so guys, let me ask you a question before I do anything else. And I know, David, you had brought this up. Does it make sense now what the difference is between the little line and not having the little line in terms of using the brackets and using the parentheses? And then also, when the little arrow points to the right, that means I'm looking for when it's positive. And when the little arrow points to the left, that means I'm looking for when it's negative. Does that make any more sense, or anybody, not necessarily just David, but I know David had asked something like that. So I want to make sure you guys feel okay about this.
Yeah, for me, it answered perfectly. You know, the way I was already kind of in the concept to where I was
Mhm.
like, okay, somehow every time it has this, it's using a bracket, so okay, and I kind of got that. But now that the way that you put it, it just made much more sense on why. You know, so
Excellent.
yeah, so it
Good,
makes
good,
sense.
very good. Good. Guys, let me ask you a question. Does anybody else or anybody have any? I don't want to tell David he can't ask any more questions. He definitely can. But does anybody have any questions that y'all want to ask me about anything in chapter one before we move on to something else? If there was a problem that you were stuck with, an idea that you didn't understand, you guys are more than welcome to ask. And guys, like put it this way. So so next Wednesday we're going to do the same thing, right? We're going to log in at 5:30. And I know I just put up the stuff for chapter two. And so for this week, you guys are supposed to be doing 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. So like for instance, next Wednesday I would say, okay, what questions do you guys have for me out of 2-1 or 2-2 or 2-3? And guys, I want to mention something. If you're doing 2-1 and something isn't working for you, don't get discouraged and say, well, I'm just going to wait until Wednesday and I'm not going to do anything until then. Go on to 2.2 and 2.3. Chances are you might be able to do some of those problems, and then it might just be something on 2.1 that you're stuck with. But next Wednesday, I definitely want to answer questions from 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. And then the following Wednesday, since our homework is not due until Thursdays now, and I'm going to make them all like that, guys. I'm going to make every single homework that we have from here on out due on Thursday nights. They'll be available as early as Tuesday mornings. And I'm doing that just because of Labor Day and stuff like that, right? But I'll make everything available on Tuesdays. But whatever. So like the following Wednesday, you would ask me questions from 2-4, 2-5, 2-6, knowing that that homework is not due until the next night. So anybody have any questions on any questions out of chapter one? I know we just did a couple of problems out of 1-7, but does anybody have any other questions out of chapter one? Paula, tell me.
Yes, I was having a lot of trouble with the quadratic formula
Okay.
with like in the 1.6. It was like
Yes.
the last ones.
Okay. So let's do this. Let me come back here and let's see 1.6. And let me see if I can find a problem that we can look at. Yes. Okay. So I'll tell you what. Let's try this one here. And let me see if I can find. Okay. So look, I'll tell you what. Was this one that you were? I don't know. Am I still sharing my screen? I don't know that. Yes. Okay. Was this one in particular? Was this like the type of question you were struggling with?
Yes, it was something like that, but it was the ones that had like the big, big numbers. Like I would get
Okay.
everything, like every step, but all the way to the very end when it would get into the square root, like plus or minus something, like
Yes.
just to get
Okay.
the answer, that's where I was getting it wrong.
Okay. So guys, this one here is probably going to be one just like that when we start doing the quadratic formula. Okay. So let me see. Let me copy and paste it here, and we'll work through this one together. Let's see. There we go. And so let me do this with you guys. Let me stop sharing this. Share another screen. And let's see. Yes, you guys can see it. Okay. So guys, this is a problem out of 1.6. I think this is number, I already forgot. Give me 1 second, I'll tell you. It's number 8 out of 1.6, okay? So what I'm gonna do here, y'all, first thing is I wanna get this piece by itself. So I'm gonna add 9 to both sides, okay? And this is gonna leave me with the square root of 5x plus 1 equals 2x negative 17, and 9 should be a minus 8. Okay, so now what we got to do, y'all, we got to square both sides. So this square and that square root are going to cancel each other out. Okay, and guys, I know I probably said this in the video, but I want to make sure that everybody understands. Anytime I'm going to square something, Honestly, it's best just to write it out twice. Simply for the reason that sometimes people try to do it in their head and you make a little mistake and it throws the whole thing off. So there's 4x squared. That's a minus 16x. I got another minus 16x. And that's a plus 64. So the negative times a negative is a positive. So now I got 5x plus 1, okay, equals 4x squared. When I combine those together, that's a minus 32x and a plus 64, okay? And so now what we're going to do, y'all, is we are going to subtract 5x and 1 on both sides. Minus 5x and minus 1, okay? So look, we're going to have 0, because these are going to cancel. 4x squared. When I combine those together, y'all, that is a minus 37x. And when we combine this together, this is a plus 63. Okay, so guys, Paula's comment was, if we try to factor this, we are multiplying 4 and 63, and that gives us a really, really, really big number. And Vala, I agree with you 100%. It does. So instead of me factoring it, what I'm going to suggest that we do is we use the quadratic formula. Okay. So when using the quadratic formula, y'all, we got to know 3 numbers: A, B, and C, right? So my A is 4, our B is a negative 37, and our C is a 63. Okay. And then what we're going to do here, y'all, is we're going to write down the formula. And I told y'all can sing it. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Oh, divided by 2. Okay. And yeah, it's corny, but guys, before the pandemic hit, and I would teach this class, and on test day or quiz day, everybody's like, everybody was doing like that because it made it easy to remember, right? All right, so let's go ahead and start setting this thing up. So, y'all, when I'm doing my formula, I do a strictly plug and chug thing. So there's a negative, I'm going to write a negative down. Then my B is a negative 37. I know that's going to change, but right now I'm just plugging my numbers in. Okay. And let's see. B squared. So this is going to be a negative 37 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 63, all over 2 times 4. Okay, so now we did the plug, let's do the chug part of it. Let's simplify. So a negative and a negative is going to become positive. Okay. Now, guys, when we're going to do this part here, this is definitely when you want to use your calculator. So let me stop sharing my screen real quick because I'm going to share a couple of pieces of info with you guys. So first thing I'm going to do on my calculator, I'll share my screen with you guys in a minute. I'm going to take negative 37 and I'm going to square it, and then I'm going to take negative 4 times 63. So let me stop sharing that part, and let me come to this piece here, and let's see. Okay, so guys, this is the graphing calculator, but I showed you guys that you can get that graphing calculator app, and it works exactly the same way. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say, what's negative 37 when I square it? Okay, it's 1369. And then the other thing I wanted to know is, what was negative 4 times positive 4 times 63? Negative 1088. Okay, so I'm going to write those two numbers down back in my notes. So I had 1369 and a minus 1088. 1369 minus 10, oops. Is it 1088 or 1008? 1008, sorry about that. Okay, all over 2 times 4, I don't need my calculator, that's 8. Okay, so now we're going to go 37 plus or minus Guys, I'm just going to do that part of my calculator. I want to know what's 1369 minus 1008. I'm just going to do it real quick. 1369 minus 1008. Okay, 361. So square root of 361 all over 8. Okay. And then I'm going to take my calculator again, y'all, and I'm going to figure out what is the square root of 361. The square root of 361, 19. Okay, so Paula, the one thing I want to emphasize, my numbers were big, but this is exactly why we have the calculator, because the calculator will allow me to figure out what these numbers are going to be, and I don't have to, I don't have to take 37 times 37 and do it on paper. That's why we got our calculators, right? So guys, now remember, we're going to do two things. One of them we're going to add. So we're going to say, what's 37 plus 19, and we're going to divide that by 8. And the other one we're going to subtract. What's 37 minus 19, and we're going to divide that by 8. So if I do this on my calculator, oops, and I'm just going to use my phone calculator real quick, guys. 37 plus 19 is 56 divided by 8. That's going to give me 7. And 37 minus 19 is 18. And 18 divided by 8, I can at least reduce them, divide them both by 2. That's going to give me 9 over 4. Okay, so we came up with two answers. We came up with 7, and we came up with 9 over 4. What we got to do now, y'all, we got to check our answer. So what I mean by check my answer is my original problem, oops, let me do it like this. Okay. This was our original problem, 5x plus 1 minus 9 equals 2x minus 17, okay? So far, are we doing okay?
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm with everybody, that we're all on the same page. We're doing okay so far? All right, so guys, what we're going to do now, we're going to check. We're going to check the first answer. We're going to check 7. Okay, so let's see if this one works. So all I'm going to do here, 5 times 7 plus 1 minus 9. So 5 times 7 is 35 plus 1 minus 9. This is 36 minus 9. And 36 is 6. And 6 minus 9 gives me a negative 3. Now, I got to plug in that same number over here. So 2 times 7 is 14. And 14 minus 7 is also negative 3. Since those two numbers match up, that tells me that that answer is good. Okay? That's a good answer. We're almost done. We got to check one more. We got to check 9 over 4. Okay? So we're going to do that again. We're going to say 5x plus 1 minus 9 equals 2x minus 17. So I'm going to do it like this, y'all. I'm going to think of that 5 as 5 over 1 times 9 over 4 plus 1 minus 9. I'll worry about the right side in a minute. Okay. Now, we're going to multiply straight across. So 5 times 9 is 45 plus 1 over 1, because I need to get a common denominator, minus 9. So look, 45 over 4, we can think of 1 over 1, y'all, as 4 over 4. So we can get our common denominator. And this is going to give me 49 over 4 minus 9. So 49 over 4, the way I take the square root of the top is 7. The square root of the bottom is 2. And I'm going to write this as minus 9 over 1, because I got to get another common denominator. So that means I got to multiply this guy by 2 and this guy by 2. So that's 7 over 2 minus 18 over 2. I'll give you a hint, it's going to be something over 2. 7 minus 18 is negative 11. So I come up with a negative 11 over 2 on the left side. Okay. I got to do the same thing over here. So remember the number I'm plugging in. The number I'm plugging in is 9 over 4. So I'm going to say, what's 2 over 1 times 9 over 4 minus 17? So the first thing is this 2 and that 4 will reduce. That gives me 9 over 2 minus 17 over 1. Okay. So I got to get a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this one by 2 and this one by 2. So this is 9 over 2 minus whatever 17 times 2 is, 34. And then what's 9 minus 34? I'm coming up with a negative 25 over 2. And is that the same answer that we got over here? No, it isn't, right? So all that tells me is that this number here doesn't work, and the one that does is that one, 7, right? So look, guys, I'm going to do something now. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to share with you guys what we had here. And so far, we said the answer that we came up with was 7. So let's check it. All right. That was a long problem, wasn't it? The one thing I really want to emphasize, guys, is to me, the part that takes the longest with these types of problems, in my opinion, is the check. What I want to mention real quick, let me stop sharing this screen with you guys, and I'm going to come back and share one more with you all, is when we did our work here, right, and we got to this step right about here, what did we do? We said, you know what? Let's use the quadratic formula. And then we just went, guys, from here to here, all I did is take those numbers and place them. I didn't do any computations. From here to here, we did a couple of computations. From here to here, we did one computation. We did that part. From here to here, we did one thing. We said, what's the square root of this number? And then when we get to plus and minus, one of them means we're going to plus, one of them means we're going to minus. But the one thing I really want to emphasize, y'all, is I know the numbers are big, but that's exactly why we have our calculator. So that we can do this, right? We can figure out what these numbers are going to be, because if the numbers were like, 3s and 4s and 5s, you don't need a calculator to figure out what's 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25, right? What I'm saying is you already kind of know that's what it is. But if somebody were to ask me, hey, Omar, do you know what 37 squared is? I'd say, give me 1 second and let me get my calculator and I'll tell you what it is. But off the top of my head, no, I don't know. But it's not really important that I know either, because we can use our calculator, right? Fala, did I answer your question? I want to make sure that I did. I don't know if I did or if I didn't.
Well, yes, because I know I get to the very end. I always get to the end, but when I check the answer on the problem, when I plug them in, that's where it says that they're both wrong, and that's where I feel like, well, what did I do wrong?
Okay. Yeah, so the one thing I would encourage you to do, just go really slow and one step at a time. Like the way I was showing, like the way we did our calculation, I didn't try to do too many steps into one. I really try to go one thing, just one step from each one. And because if I try to do too many steps in one line, that's when I make a mistake. Okay. Let's see. Did y'all have any other questions you want to ask me, guys? We still got about 10 minutes.
I wanted to ask, what was that little song? I had stepped away shortly. That little song or rhyme that you were singing.
So the quadratic formula, right? So let me show y'all real quick, right? And guys, I've been teaching. I taught my first class, y'all, in 1997. I don't know what y'all were doing in 1997, but that was when I taught my first class at UTPA when I was still going to graduate school, and I learned it back then. And but guys, since we're in an online format, like whenever we get ready to take our test, number one, I'm gonna give you a formula sheet. But guys, you can use your notes, okay? So you never really have to memorize it, but the way you do it, if you decide you want to memorize it, is that song when we were all little kids. Pop goes the weasel. So you go x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And so, guys, I've been, like I said, I've been teaching since 1997, but probably like in the early 2000s, I used to joke with my students because in the early 2000s, this show was like ridiculously popular. But I would say, hey, do y'all think I can go on American Idol? And everybody said, no, sir. And I was like, that's all right. So, yeah, but guys, y'all, again, it's just, you can definitely use your notes and you can use the formula sheet that I'm going to provide for you guys. But the one thing I always say is like, knowing the formula, or at least knowing how to get started, is obviously really, really important. And sometimes when I tell people like, oh, you can use your notes, they're like, oh man, I don't really have to study because I'll be able to use all this stuff. And then they really have no idea where to get started. So it's always a good idea to have your notes as a reference, but not to feel like I could not do a single problem if my notes were not here. That's you kind of want to be able to say like, oh, you know what, I get stuck at this part, so I go back and reference it, but I at least know how to get started. So, so guys, let me stop sharing this part here, and let me come back to this. All right. And so, like I said, y'all, what I really wanted to mention was that like between now and next Wednesday, if you guys can start going through as much of 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3 as possible, then next Wednesday when we meet again, I can answer any questions you guys have out of that. And then the Wednesday after that, if you guys can go through as much of 2-4, 2-5, and 2-6, then I can definitely spend time answering questions on that. And I really wanted you guys to have an hour of my time, once a week, so that we could go through this, because nobody wants to be in this pandemic. Nobody wants to be dealing with this COVID. We've all been dealing with it for a long time, and some people have, lost family members and stuff like that, and it's definitely not enjoyable. And I've lost a few friends from this thing as well, and it's not easy. But unfortunately, this is the situation we're in, and the school does have a limited number of. Thank you. I'm glad you liked the little tune. The school does have a limited number of in-person classes, but again, it is a limited number. And what they actually did, guys, this semester was, and I don't know how many of you guys are actually taking in-person classes right now. But for instance, if you had a class that met on Monday and Wednesday, and if there was more than 18 people in your class, then half of the students would come Monday and half of the students would come Wednesday, and then the other, whatever you missed, would be online. And my guess is that's probably going to be the model. I'm guessing that's going to be a similar model they're going to use in the spring. And I don't know how many of you guys are actually taking in-person classes right now. I have two, and they're both in Wesco. And what they're doing also is they're cleaning those rooms in between classes so that when you come in, you hopefully feel somewhat safe knowing that they wipe stuff down and stuff. But like what I'm doing when I go to my class, I take an extra thing of sanitizer and tell my students, hey, if you want to use some sanitizer, I got some here. I got extra masks. If you want one, the only thing I tell them is clean your hands and then you grab a mask. And then I'm also taking like Clorox wipes, because I tell them everybody has a different idea of clean, and what the college might consider clean, maybe you don't, right? So you might want to wipe down your personal area before you sit. But I wanted to make sure that you guys, since we're strictly online, you guys had at least an hour dedicated to you all, not for all my other classes, but Wednesday nights from 5:30 to 6:30. This is our time. And again, you can ask me questions at any other time, and I'll get back to you during office hours and stuff. But Wednesday nights, this is what we'll do. And guys, I'm going to record the sessions every single time, and then I'll upload them to YouTube, and I'll send you guys the link on Pronto. So in case you're not able to attend, you want to watch it later, and you want to review some of the stuff, you'll definitely be able to do that. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. But I really want to thank you all for showing up, those of you who did. And in the meantime, guys, if y'all got questions, let me know, okay? I'm happy to help. I really want all of you to do well this semester. And I know sometimes that you feel a little lost trying to go through some of the stuff, especially if you've been out of school for a while and you're trying to do this by yourself, and sometimes you can get discouraged. Know that you can ask me questions at any time, and know that you and I are going to see each other every Wednesday night, and you're not alone, okay? I'm here to help you guys. So with that, I'll let you guys go. I hope you all have a good evening, and stay safe out there, guys. You know, wear your masks. If you haven't gotten your vaccine, get it. This is just a little personal story, guys. I lost 2 friends within the last couple of weeks, and neither of them were vaccinated, and they didn't get vaccinated because they weren't sure about it. And the one thing that they can't decide now is to go get it because they're no longer here. So if you haven't gotten your vaccine, I highly encourage you to get it. I'm not a medical expert at all, but this has just been the experiences that I've had, okay? Anyway, y'all have a good night, guys, and I'll talk to y'all soon, okay? Adios.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.